Welcome back to the Bitcoin Zodiac and happy all-time highs, like all-time highs every day. I'm super happy to be back. I had a beautiful holiday and what a time to come back to the markets. Bitcoin is sitting around 90K, which is incredible. And yeah, it's just been a beautiful time. And a lot of the things that I've been discussing in the last couple of months, the last couple of episodes, that would encourage me to confidently be bullish. I mean, I'm always permanently bullish long term on Bitcoin, to sort of move into that bullish aspect of the market, that we're kind of moving out of the accumulation phase and we're moving into the bull run phase, the banana zone, as lots of people are calling it now. I think Raoul Paul started that. And yeah, it's really exciting. And for all of you, especially the ones that have been here with me from the beginning of the Bitcoin Zodiac, that have lived through this dreadful bear market and accumulation phase, it's been so tiring. It's been exhausting, even coming and doing these videos, and every week it's the same. Every video, it's the same, like, yeah, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. And now it feels like all of the things that I've been discussing the last few months, that we need to kind of get through before I'm comfortable, we have now moved through. So we moved through eclipse season. We've had the elections in the US. And we've now, one of my other things was that we needed to confidently break through all-time highs, come back, retest it, and then move away, which we've also done. And we've got then Pluto moving back into Aquarius, moving into Aquarius. And that is another thing that I think is really important for Bitcoin. And the only thing really on the horizon that is a little bit sketchy is Mercury retrograde. And we've ridden out so many Mercury retrogrades, but we'll talk about that later in the video anyway. But yeah, what a beautiful time. You really want to take that moment to be like, thank you, be grateful, and lean into that excitement and all of those good feelings and really embody them, feel them in your body, add them to core memories. And yeah, just say, thank you, God, and more of this, please. So yeah, so it's pretty awesome. It's a beautiful time. Bitcoin, the orange coin, is really outshining the orange man. So that's really exciting because, as you know, if you've watched this channel, I'm not really big into politics. I kind of think that it's a bit of a pantomime, and whether you're red or blue, liberal or conservative, I think it's two sides of the same coin. It's more of a uniparty situation, and both parties are sort of catering to different demographics. I don't think that there is, I think it's a similar sort of thing as you can be standing looking at cornflakes or frosted flakes in the supermarket, but at the end of the day, if you buy either of them, your money's still going to Kellogg's. And I kind of view politics in the same way, no matter what country, actually. And so yeah, but also around here, we care about orange coin. We're not as interested in orange man, but hopefully he will, like, I mean, he's made some big promises, right? So hopefully we will see some of those. First one, free Ross. He said that he would pardon him and free him on his first day in office. So let's see if that happens. That's really important for the Bitcoin community. Also, he said that he's going to end wars in Middle East and in Ukraine. And, I really hope that he does that. So, and most importantly, I think the most important thing that he said to me is that he will protect the right for Americans to self-custody Bitcoin. So that is super, super important to me. So I hope he follows through on all of these things. And let's see, let's see. That's what I think about that. And yeah, as I say, we're more focused on orange coin over here. And at the moment, orange coin is really, really shining. So we're looking at now coming into this full moon in Taurus. And so this is really like inviting this like self-centering energy. The Taurus full moons really invites us to connect with ourselves and find like a very grounded, earthy stability. Taurus is ruled by Venus, and it emphasizes the beauty and the miraculous nature of our earthly existence. So it's really a time to be connecting to your physical self and really embodying just the goodness, grounding and connecting to that physical self. Like if you're someone like me, like I'm much more at home in the, the moon and the stars than I am here on in the practicalities of life and the practicalities of planet Earth. But now is the time to really connect to Earth, ground in, and really sort of embody that nurturing energy. So be very present with your senses during this time, feel grounded and just aware of the world around you. So experience that stabilizing force of the earth element, in the midst of Scorpio seasons, like emotional intensity. So recognize and utilize personal resources that you have available to you, such as emotional tools, body breath practices, like very much embodiment practices, even yoga and meditation, but again, focusing on the embodiment. And it's also a really good time to like connect with community for support as well. So trust in your own strength to find that balance during any kind of challenges that come up and any time of growth as well, so really trust that strength is within you and that wisdom is within you to be able to find that balance. So you want to be able to feel the energy of this full moon. So sense that nurturing container that this full moon creates, just offering a moment of calm and reassurance. So stand under the light of the full moon, if that's possible for you, and just pause and feel that stillness, feel the energy of the moon and feel that tranquility. And recognize that your true home is really within you and you're the foundation. So just trust that you have everything you need to overcome any challenges and also grow into who you're meant to grow into, that next iteration of self that's available for you at this time. So identify any attachments to comfort zones. This is a very kind of like Taurus trait, is that, Taurus can be very comfortable, can get very sort of like comfy and stagnant. And so you want to be able to just identify attachments to any comfort zones that you feel in which you feel very secure, but maybe are hindering your growth. Also acknowledge that comfort zones can include people, places, jobs, and relationships. And I don't know, even accumulation phases of a bear market. Maybe you're feeling very comfortable in this accumulation phase, and this quick move up has sort of made you feel a little wobbly and a little unstable. And so just notice those areas that even, we obviously want the bull market to come, but if that sort of felt like outside of your comfort zone, those are the things to tune into and sort of wrestle with under the light of this full moon. So you want to create and cultivate this self-reliance to stop being to just step beyond the familiar confines and embrace new experiences. So trust in your ability to navigate change, just knowing that you are your greatest resource. You are your greatest resource and you are your greatest guide. And you also know when it's, when you are in a comfort zone, you're like, oh, this feels really safe and secure, but you kind of know that you're not stepping into where you need to. And that looks different for everyone. And so, yes, people that are close to you can probably witness that too. But really, it's your inner self. Like you can fool people very easily, but you know yourself, whether you are stepping into those places and embodying that next iteration of self that you're being called to right now. So use the full moon's energy to connect with your resilience, your power, and your creative potential. So deepen your connection with your body and senses and just savor that present moment and release any fear that sort of holds you back around that. Like what I was saying at the beginning is like all of these people that have been with me since the beginning of the Bitcoin Zodiac and also have been through the bear market, maybe a previous cycle for Bitcoin, you've really stuck with it. And now you can see us breaking out on the other side. And so, or at least the light of that, the iteration of that. And so you do want to just take that moment and be in that present moment and feel that moment of gratitude, feel that moment of excitement, that moment of relief, maybe. And because that actually, by embodying it and feeling it fully and being very appreciative, that also attracts more of that into your life. And so let's all do that on behalf of Bitcoin. So you want to allow the full moon's energy to really guide you in breaking free from any limitations, and just trust that you can always find your way home to yourself, empowered and just ready to evolve. So this full moon's energy is also amplified by several aspects. So the most notable one is the moon's conjunction with Uranus retrograde in Taurus. So conjunctions can kind of be a blend of energies of celestial bodies, and they create a more intense expression and influence. So with Uranus influence, it's the planet of change and movement, and it brings transformative shifts, sometimes in the form of like metaphorical earthquakes or actually, physical earthquakes. And we want to be aware of these things, especially in Taurus, because it's really sort of affecting that earth element. And so like this Uranus's energy is in Taurus until 2026, and Uranus guides us to reconnect with and care for the earth. So really urging this collective awareness of environmental responsibility and how we can move into that. But when you think about this, I want you to really come from an honest, intuitive place, rather than listening to external sources, because a lot of these sort of green initiatives are actually not really doing anything for the earth. They're really just sort of financializing an environmental movement. And so we really want to be sort of tuned into the earth during this time of how we can be better stewards of the earth. And but doing that from a very intuitive place rather than the collective sort of gaslighting us into it. So Uranus often disrupts existing structures to create space for new growth. So promoting an equal and respectful relationship with nature. And that's really the energy of this that you want to be leaning into. So personal transformation with Uranus and the moon. So the moon rules our emotional body, and this conjunction with Uranus facilitates breaking free from deeply entrenched emotional patterns. So Uranus uniquely sort of the unique rotation and motion of Uranus really reflect its nature of changing norms and encouraging us to go against these deeply ingrained habits and societal expectations. So this aspect really inspires a deeper exploration of your emotional responses, many of which are rooted in learned behaviors. And so it really invites us to just question, reshape, and, create new emotional pathways. And the interesting sort of thing about that is people, like me, who have always sort of like pushed against or like rejected societal norms or been uncomfortable with societal norms, that's kind of come from comes across maybe as a bit of a rebellious sort of energy. But I'm not saying necessarily in me, but collectively, people who sort of are already at this stage of rejecting societal norms and questioning societal norms, that sort of feels rebellious. But if that is you, you want to sort of lean into that and understand that emotion and recognize that you're in this transit that actually aligns with how you feel. So you don't really need to be rebelling. And sometimes you can get into a space where you're arguing, you're rebelling, and really you just need to go, oh, okay, I was ahead of that time, and we're here now in that time, and embody that shift. And so that you're kind of like a light for other people to be able to, you give permission for other people to do that as well. But you need to recognize that sort of you've already won that war. You don't need to stay in the battle for the sake of being rebellious and staying in that battle, if that makes sense. So ease into that. If you are someone who already has been questioning societal norms your whole life, probably, or, just doesn't fit into societal norms necessarily, recognize that this transition is supporting you in that energy and just release them. Like, you can very beautifully release them. It doesn't, you're not battling against energy at this point in time. It's aligning with you and it's supporting you. So you can just lean into that and flow with that. So this aspect really inspires a deeper exploration of our emotional responses, as I said, and those learned behaviors. So what's our learned response? What is our survival mechanism when our own authenticity is challenged or questioned by societal norms? And so, yeah, you just want to have a look at questioning that, questioning the voices that are telling you that is wrong or that is right, really asking, surrendering that and seeing, like, where did that come from? Who told me that? Do I still agree with that? Is that voice valid? Is it serving me now moving forward? And so it's those sort of questions that you want to be asking during this time. The sun is also in opposition to Uranus. So the sun is representing our core identity, and it forms a tense opposition with Uranus, creating the potential for breakthroughs in these areas. So this opposition really challenges deeply held beliefs and aspects of our identity, urging us to really dissolve what no longer serves us and really connect to our deepest truth and our deepest authenticity. So this full moon really reminds us of our energetic connection to nature and to the universe. And it encourages us to break free from limiting labels, definitions, and attachments. So ground yourself in Taurus's stabilizing energy and use it to support your liberation and infinite potential for growth and expansion. So that's really where we're at. And of course, when we have the moon in Taurus, a full moon in Taurus, we have the sun in Scorpio. So the full moon illuminates the energies of both Taurus and Scorpio, which are forming a dynamic axis at this point. So we're looking to lean in, as always, on a full moon to the higher qualities of the higher frequencies of each of those signs, and recognize the lower, the shadow, and where we can grow and evolve and release those things. So during this full moon, all of the energies are intensified. So it offers us a chance to really observe where we're at, and where we may be embodying some of these lower frequencies. So the lower vibrations can really misalign with our soul's purpose and cause stagnation and, just unconscious pattern repetition. So really sort of be aware of your own sort of patterns and how you're repeating things over and over and over again. And just recognize these vibrations through recognizing these vibrations through awareness allows us to break those patterns and choose differently and just create some positive transformation. So Scorpio really encourages confronting our shadows, fears, and cycles to uncover like deeper truths and find stillness through transformation. So by facing the emotional ups and downs, we gain some peace after navigating life's challenges, really. So Taurus seeks peace through tangible connections to nature and the present moment. So it reminds us of our place in the universe, encouraging resilience, really like a tree, just standing firm in any storm that is going on. So it teaches stillness and creativity through connection to the earth cycles. The lower frequencies of Scorpio can kind of manifest as a relentless cycle of self-improvement, obsession with transformation, and attachment to drama, and the drama around that. So there's a tendency to maybe focus on darkness and what needs to be fixed rather than appreciating life's positives. So the reality is that I rarely call sort of inner work healing anymore, because it just doesn't feel like it resonates with me as much anymore, even though it is often what is happening. It's more that it just creates this atmosphere of there's something wrong with me and that needs to be fixed, and if I don't fix it, then I'm broken and I'm staying where I am. And that's just not true. Really, this inner work that we're doing through the cycles of each new moon and full moon is actually an evolutionary work. We're evolving through these cycles. The energy of these moon cycles are working within us for our evolution. And so it's not really like fixing something that's broken. And so if you do find yourself in that sort of like DIY project mode, you want to sort of be a bit gentle with yourself and shift out of that and recognize that, where you are exactly in this moment is exactly where you're meant to be, and you're doing your best, and your best is good enough. You're good enough exactly as you are, but you're open to the expansion and the evolution that these cycles and this energy can help propel you forward into. And so it's really having a softening of that rather than a to-do list of things that you need to fix about yourself. So then we have the lower frequencies of Taurus also, which sort of cause a reliance on like material possessions and external validation for security. So it leads to a lot of anxiety about lack, a preoccupation with money, and an over-focus on tangible comforts. So you really need to observing these behaviors with compassion. And how to sort of resolve that is connect with nature, find stillness in nature, and trust your own inherent abundance and resilience. And also, by connecting with nature, you're connecting with the power of the universe, and it just brings you this comfort and this knowing that you're safe, you're held. We live in an abundant world. Things grow, things change, and nature provides. And so by doing that, you can sort of break that cycle of being very obsessed with the material realm, material possessions, and just sort of what you're lacking. You can really tune into that abundance and find some contentedness in what you have and what is just available to us as human beings. So it's a really beautiful practice to be able to do that. And the energy of this full moon axis with the sun in Scorpio is really supporting that as well. So to transform these sort of lower connections to the lower vibrations, you want to identify and break repetitive patterns related to any drama or insecurity. So you want to notice that when you're triggered, when you find yourself reacting and kind of getting lost in some drama, or those moments where you feel insecure, just become aware of your choices before trying to change anything. You first need to bring some awareness to what you're doing and what you're playing out perpetually. So become aware of those choices that may perpetuate cycles and just seek to create a new, more empowering path. So recognize the way that you automatically respond and recognize the way that your higher self would respond and start to lean into that more. And it's not an overnight kind of thing. It's really recognizing the patterns, having some compassion with yourself, but also recognizing very softly that this is actually the way that I would like to respond, and hold that energy first, and then start to move into responding in that way. So also embrace the vulnerability of transformation, and it does feel vulnerable. It does feel raw. It does feel new. And but trust in your ability to rebuild stronger foundations. So moving from lower to higher frequencies of Taurus and Scorpio brings presence, brings resilience, and brings the power to create the life that you desire. So what you want to be doing this full moon is finding stillness, trusting your strength, and leaning into your ability to shape your path, and doing so with some confidence and creativity. So now what you all really want to know is how this full moon is impacting Bitcoin. So the full moon in Taurus signifies this climax or turning point, particularly around themes of material security, value systems, and financial stability. As Taurus rules money and assets and resources in financial astrology. So Taurus is a fixed sign associated with security, stability, assets, wealth, and really the material world. It represents tangible value, physical resources, and persistence. Now, I really love Taurus energy. I feel it has this very like aristocratic old money energy to it. And so I actually think it's a really beautiful energy to play with. And the moon's presence in Taurus really emphasizes this grounding energy, this stability, and a focus on financial matters. So urging individuals and markets to sort of reassess security and value systems, which is really interesting through the perspective of Bitcoin. And yeah, so this full moon may bring heightened attention to currency stability, wealth preservation strategies, and the accumulation or reassessment of assets, including assets like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is often viewed as digital gold. So we may see a heightened interest under the full moon in Taurus due to its store of value narrative and aligning with Taurus's focus on lasting value and wealth preservation. So however, there is, as Taurus energy leans towards caution, the market may exhibit sort of a hesitation or a shift maybe towards more long-term hodling versus speculative trading. And also, as I've discussed in previous videos, it's sort of this transformation where from Bitcoin being seen as this highly speculative risk-on asset and shifting more towards the store of value narrative. And so we'll see how Bitcoin is perceived in the market as we go forward. So given the long-term presence also of Uranus and Taurus, and that ongoing influence until 2026, the conjunction of the moon with this disruptive planet also adds an element of unpredictability. So Uranus represents a sudden change, innovation, and shocks, which can sort of amplify market volatility. So Bitcoin's price may experience some sharp movements during this time, this full moon, as it often does during a full moon anyway. But it could be sudden breakouts or sudden downturns due to sort of the unpredictable market sentiment or external events. So this often sort of reflects the markets are reflecting the collective and societal shifts happening. So we kind of saw this election, and we saw, I guess, the Trump pump from Bitcoin because I'm not sure if I would say he's necessarily pro Bitcoin, but he's certainly not against it in the same way that the Biden-Harris administration has been. So it's really interesting. It'll be really interesting, as I say, to sort of play this out and see how it plays out and see the perception shifting in the market of what Bitcoin actually is. So we also have the Venus square, the lunar nodes. So Venus, and that's happening on the 16th of November. So Venus governs value, money, and relationships. It also values beauty and our sense of pleasure. So in the context of financial astrology, it rules financial assets with wealth accumulation, spending habits, luxury goods, and our overall approach to money and investments. So with the lunar nodes, the North Node represents our future growth, destiny, and where we are collectively headed. The South Node signifies past patterns, comfort zones, and what needs to be released or transformed. So this is sort of playing into that tug of war energy of the old systems and the new coming in. So it's really interesting, but the square aspect is a challenging aspect, and it brings tension and conflict and the need for resolution. So when Venus squares the lunar nodes, there is this karmic crossroad that is happening, involving themes related to value, money, and relationships. And the interesting thing is we've been watching this play out for a really long time. As long as you've been in Bitcoin and aware of what Bitcoin is here to do and how Bitcoin is here to disrupt the status quo, you know that there is this karmic crossroad happening, and we're there, and there's this kind of tug of war happening between the old and the new. So very interesting. And Venus square the nodes suggests that a crucial period of decision-making and rebalancing is happening. So this aspect challenges the collective and the individual attitudes towards wealth, value systems, and investments, and really pushing for a reevaluation. So we're calling for that. And sort of, I feel like Bitcoin demands that, actually is demanding that. And interestingly enough, as I've said in other videos, one of the most fascinating things I find about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin doesn't change. We change. The world changes around Bitcoin. And that's actually what's been happening. Bitcoin just gives us another block, gives us another block. It does what it does. But as our current systems of transaction, of banking, and of exchange, of trade, sort of begin to, I mean, we're beyond beginning to see the cracks in these systems, honestly. But they, as they kind of fall away and the cracks form and the cracks get wider, and they appear to be or are perceived to be less reliable, it makes Bitcoin rise up and look more viable. So that's kind of where we're at. And so do expect some fluctuations in what is considered to be valuable. There are going to be these conversations that come up. What is Bitcoin's intrinsic value? It's just speculative, it's nothing. Whereas actually it is the creation of digital scarcity. And that's what's valuable. It's also a trust-based, trustless system. And we're moving out of a trust-based system because that trust has been broken over and over and over again. And so the ability to use technology to create a trustless system is incredibly valuable. And that's only coming more and more to the forefront. So as a digital asset with a unique value proposition, Bitcoin may experience some increased scrutiny and attention under this aspect. So the market could see debates around Bitcoin's long-term viability, store of value narrative, or its position like as a risk-on versus risk-off asset. And I think that debate is going to continue. I think there's also a lot of debates happening at the moment as, you know, as Trump was elected. Is he going to make Bitcoin a reserve asset? And there's a lot of debate whether people find, is that good for Bitcoin? Is that what we want? Is it just going to stop then at being a store of value asset, or is it going to continue on its journey to actually becoming money and a unit of exchange? And whether it becoming a reserve asset would actually slow down or hinder or derail that process. So some of those things are really, you know, beyond my sphere of influence, I think. So it's definitely interesting to take note of them and watch them and overlay the astrology over these conversations and see what's going on around them and how that correlates. But I don't sort of waste too much time deciding whether I'm for or against something that is completely out of my control. So I would try to understand what the arguments around these things are and process them internally and get a read on them intuitively, and then release them if they are actually beyond your control. So Venus square the nodes often highlights tension between established financial norms and emerging innovations. So the established norms are obviously the South Node influence, that comfort zone, what we've always done. And then this contrast, this tension between emerging innovations, which is the North Node influence. So Bitcoin is a disruptive financial technology, and we're really sitting at this intersection. And so really expect a lot of debates around regulation, adoption, and Bitcoin's role in the financial system. Expect that to intensify under this aspect. So given Venus's influence over value, perception, and emotions, market sentiment may swing based on news and based on speculative behavior, or just shifts in the collective perception around Bitcoin's value and future potential and place that it holds in the financial realms. So yeah, I think that that's a really interesting aspect. And I think that as we move forward, those conversations are going to come to the fore. I mean, it will also be interesting if Donald Trump fulfills his promise to get rid of Gary Gensler, who he will put in place at the SEC. And how that sort of plays out moving forward around regulation, and innovation and things like that. It does sort of seem from the way that he is talking that he's obviously much more pro innovation, and I mean only US innovation really. But yeah, I mean, only time will tell. Let's see if he fulfills some of those election promises. So one of the most transformative aspects, I think, in recent history is this Pluto pathway and this Pluto back and forth retrograding back into Capricorn, returning to Aquarius. And this was sort of one of the things that I sort of found very impactful in regards to my confidence in being very bullish, and that we're exiting the accumulation zone and we're entering into this very bullish bull run territory. And so that's really happening on the 19th of November. Pluto re-enters Aquarius, and it will remain there until 2043. So Pluto is really all about rebirth and transformation. It guides deep life-altering changes. It really calls us to let go of the old, to make space for renewal and new beginnings. It's a space for intuitive thinking. Aquarius really encourages breakthroughs and unconventional perspectives. So stay receptive to fresh ideas and unique solutions. And this has really been something that I've been playing with or wrestling with in my own life and questioning in my own life recently is, what are these just givens that I've always accepted, that I've always just accepted as truths? And, or, we've always done it this way, so it will always be done this way. What are those things that I'm not even consciously aware of but exist in my psyche? And how can I release them or sort of reorganize them to allow space for new solutions and unique and fresh ideas and new ways of doing things? It also encourages emotional resilience. So ground into your emotions to navigate, Pluto's intense. And so you really want to ground into your own emotions and release what no longer serves your growth and well-being. And it always makes me laugh, even myself. Like, I'm so hyper aware of all of these kind of concepts and dynamics of release what no longer serves you. It sounds so simple, but yet in your own life, like, we really cling to things. And this kind of energy, like especially at the age of Aquarius, that's really outdated. Like, it's going to come quickly. Like, these shifts and these transformations and letting go of things, is coming much quicker. The timelines have really been sped up, and we need to be able to recognize things and let go of things quickly. Like, recognize, hey, this once served me, grateful for it, thank you, don't need it going forward, release it. And so, and I think that rather than things in the physical necessarily, it's more about mindset. It's more about the belief systems that we hold to be so very true. We've got to become really agile and quick to release those things once they are no longer serving our growth. So Pluto is Aquarius, really, but Pluto in Aquarius is really about community connection as well. So drawing strength from collaboration and shared aspirations. So Aquarius really inspires collective healing and unity. And so I think that that's just something that's very beautiful moving forward. But it's interesting the way that it comes through with this aspect and the timing of which it comes through, because we've been sold a lot of fake, like, niceness and, communities and being sweet and being nice. But actually now it's really time to step into being truthful in our communities and being kind in our communities and working together and really supporting each other. Because I think that we sort of have been in this space where it's like, well, if I'm just very sweet and nice on the surface, then that's good enough. And it's really not. As we move into this new space, that's not enough. It's like true community, it's true connection. And that's what we've got to lean into. It's not just this fake, you know, rainbows and unicorns, even though I love rainbows and unicorns, kind of peace and love, you know, love and light vibes. It's like, no, I'm in community with you. I'm doing life with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's true kindness, and that's true love and true community. And that's what we're coming into. So also, this is a very visionary kind of aspect as well. So embrace, like, Aquarius is called to dream boldly and envision a better future. And activate your inner rebel. You know, Pluto in Aquarius really energizes independence and drives activism. So take empowered, confident steps towards meaningful transformation, whatever that looks like for you. It's a really interesting time as well of just being able to hold the new, hold the unknown. It's so uncomfortable as human beings to be able to do this. We want to go, well, that used to work for me really well, and that made me feel safe and nice and fluffy. Like, we're done with that vibe, or the guru energy, looking for someone to follow, looking for someone to copy, looking for someone to tell you what to do. We're done with that. That's not how it is. Like, this Aquarius energy is very sort of horizontal more than vertical. Like, we're all in this together. We all bring our own individuality, our own authenticity. We need to be able to ground into that and find our own inner truth and operate from that space to then come in and connect with the collective and contribute to the collective. It's not a top-down approach, it's a down-up, and it's horizontal. We all have something to contribute. The person next to you has something to contribute, and you have something to contribute to them. We're not looking for someone who we're going to appoint as God in our life. We have too many times over and over again that goes very badly wrong, because it's not how we're designed to be. We have our own divinity, and we have our own humanity, and we're meant to walk in that each day. And that's how we contribute to the collective. And that's each and every human being. No one is higher or better than another. And we should be very, very careful about putting people on pedestals in that way, and also looking down on people like that. That's not the energy of this season at all. That's not what we're coming into at all. So Bitcoin, in relation to this aspect, the reason why I think it's really important is what keeps coming to me when I think about this aspect, when I'm looking at what Pluto is doing over the last year or so, 2 years. You know, what keeps coming to me when I'm thinking about that and when I'm meditating about that, it really, in relation to Bitcoin, is it's an idea whose time has come. Like, Bitcoin is an idea whose time has come. So Pluto represents, as I said, transformation, power, and deep systemic change. It also brings endings, rebirths, and restructuring of existing paradigms, which is also what Bitcoin is here to do. So as a slow-moving planet, it's a generational planet, so it impacts a generation. Pluto transits have long-term implications, often marking significant generational shifts in society, economy, and in technology. And Bitcoin really shows up in those three areas: in society, economy, and in technology. So Aquarius is also associated with innovation, technology, individuality, collective consciousness, and unconventional thinking. So it governs areas such as technology and social change, freedom, and the decentralization of power, which Bitcoin is really about the decentralization of money, but we also are witnessing in our world, whether people want to see it or not, whether people are comfortable with it or not, we are actually seeing a decentralization of power. And I'll go into that a bit more in future episodes, but this is also really healthy and also very much aligned with this time as well. We're not going to we're moving into a time where we're not going to be ruled by one superpower. There is going to be a decentralization of world power and world dominance. And part of that is the decentralization of the money, which is obviously what Bitcoin is bringing. So Pluto's re-entry into Aquarius signifies a return to themes that emerged when it first entered the sign earlier in this cycle. It marks a renewed focus on transformation in areas tied to Aquarian themes, particularly around technology, social structures, and power dynamics. And this is exactly what Bitcoin is created to disrupt. So the disruption and transformation, Pluto in Aquarius is really this harbinger of disruptive change in financial markets. So it's this focus on technology-driven innovation. And it could manifest in shifts in how money and value are perceived and really how we do money. So potentially impacting everything from the stock market and obviously emerging digital assets. So Aquarius association with technology as well suggests continued growth in the evolution of fintech, DeFi, Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain technologies as a whole, in fact. So the financial sector is really likely to witness accelerated adoption of digital assets, tokenization, AI-driven financial models, and decentralized systems. So Pluto in Aquarius really emphasizes the decentralization of authority, which can really challenge traditional banking systems, centralized finance, and established institutions, which that's what we're here to do. We're here to fuck the system, disrupt the system. So there may be increased demand for transparency, decentralization, and more inclusive financial models. And so that's really what Bitcoin represents. And that's why I think that this transit is incredibly important. It needed to come. It was part of Bitcoin's move out of the accumulation phase into the bull phase, in my opinion. So expect also increased tension between regulatory bodies and the decentralized nature of Bitcoin. So governments may, still attempt to impose new regulations while the Bitcoin community pushes for freedom, privacy, and innovation. I'm not sure whether that is necessarily going to be leveled at Bitcoin, but we're probably more likely to see that being rewritten within the rest of crypto. So Pluto, no two ways about it, transformative energy. And so that can bring volatility. So just keep your wits about you a little bit. Bitcoin's price could really experience sudden spikes or corrections as the market sort of responds to broader societal and financial shifts. But I do believe, or I do interpret this as a positive aspect, and just because of the nature of the themes of this aspect, that I do see this as more of a breakthrough than a breakdown for Bitcoin. So moving on to the 21st of November, where we have Saturn, Quincunx, Bitcoin's natal midheaven, and Bitcoin's natal Chiron. So this sort of speaks to me is really about turning wounds into wisdom. So Saturn is a planet of discipline, structure, and responsibility, and long-term stability as well. And in astrology, it represents authority, boundaries, and restrictions, and also like hard lessons. So it often acts as this reality check that forces more careful planning and maturity, really. It pushes us into maturity. So a quincunx is an aspect that represents an adjustment or a tension and the need for a realignment. Like unlike squares, it doesn't force immediate confrontation, but it instead creates this subtle but persistent sort of discomfort that requires some adaptation and some change. The midheaven symbolizes public reputation, career, and one's highest aspirations and achievements in the world. So for Bitcoin, this relates to its public perception, global standing, and influence as a financial asset. And then we have Chiron, which is, we all know that I love Chiron energy, this wounded healer energy that represents areas where there is a need to heal and grow from past wounds. And it often points to areas of vulnerability that can then be transformed into strengths through awareness and work. And so Saturn Quincunx, Bitcoin's natal midheaven, suggests challenges and adjustments in how Bitcoin is perceived by the public, regulatory bodies, and traditional financial institutions. And I think we're seeing that shift. Like Saturn doesn't necessarily need to be, in relation to perceptions, it doesn't need to be a bad perception, but there are always growing pains as things shift. So there are a lot of people in the financial markets have been against Bitcoin for the last 10 years, whereas the tides are kind of turning, and it's difficult to go, okay, I read that wrong, and to shift into something new. So sometimes that's kind of the maturity that Saturn is bringing as well. That's what I'm reading from this aspect. So this aspect may indicate the need for Bitcoin to adapt its underlying infrastructure, community governance, or broader positioning in the global financial market. So Saturn represents its long-term stability, and the Quincunx implies that like achieving this stability requires uncomfortable but necessary shifts and changes. So I can see that there's been fund managers who've been poo-pooing and Bitcoin for years, and now their clients are demanding it. And so there are those kind of shifts, especially in areas of government as well. There are really shifts in those areas. So I think that these sort of changes, especially when you have that Chiron energy influencing, it's always for expansion. It's always for transformation. The wound is where the gold is, So yeah, I think that that's really interesting. And the wounding has always been Bitcoin's public perception. Like I said, Bitcoin doesn't actually change. Like Bitcoin is the same. It just keeps doing what it does. But the public perception has been, problematic in the past. And so now that is shifting and that is changing. So, and now we're moving into Sagittarius season. Can everybody just collectively hold hands and say, thank God for Sagittarius season? We're ready, we made it, and we're here. So I'm super excited. It's my sun sign. I think it's the best season, but I might be a little bit biased on that. But it's great it's always a pause. Everybody has a good time in Sagittarius season. Everybody needs Sagittarius friends around them because they're the most fun. But also, everybody has a good time in Sagittarius season. So I'm excited to move into that. We'll talk more about that next week. The real impact of Sagittarius when we look at my new moon, sorry. Also on the 22nd, we have Uranus sextile Bitcoin's natal Jupiter. So this is a super positive aspect, honestly, because Uranus is the planet, again, of sudden change, innovation, disruption, and technological breakthroughs. So it rules over anything unexpected or unconventional. So often bringing about shifts that are surprising, progressive, or even revolutionary. So then when you bring in Jupiter's influence, which is expansion, optimism, growth, abundance, and higher learning, it's associated with prosperity, wealth, opportunities for growth and success. And, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And so that's all kind of coming into alignment with like a lot of expansion, and a lot of optimism and a lot of room for growth. So a sextile is also this harmonious aspect that encourages positive opportunities, growth, and constructive development. So it requires some action or effort to maximize its potential, but it creates favorable conditions for progress. So this aspect is really indicating a period of growth and expansion for Bitcoin, driven by innovation and technological advancements and an open-minded approach to change. So Uranus brings that disruptive energy, which Bitcoin already like embodies to the max anyway. And then Jupiter amplifies its effects in a constructive and growth-orientated way. So this transit may bring technological advancements or innovation within the Bitcoin ecosystem, such as improved scalability, network updates, or adoption of, new use cases. But it can also lead to increased public and institutional interest. So while Uranus is really known for its unpredictability, the sextile to Jupiter does suggest that the market volatility is expected to lead to in a positive direction. So price spikes, breakthroughs, and breakthroughs in public perception and unexpected good news might also boost Bitcoin's value, creating new opportunities and sort of just continuing this positive pump. So expect a surge in interest and optimism in the crypto market as a whole, with Bitcoin leading the way. So the expansionary energy of Jupiter combined with Uranus' disruptive influence can drive market enthusiasm, creating this bullish sentiment around Bitcoin's potential. We also could see Uranus often influences changes in societal and regulatory structures as well. So this aspect could bring some unexpected positive shifts in, maybe some regulatory clarity or acceptance of Bitcoin with mainstream finance, enhancing its legitimacy even further. So just be on the lookout for a lot of that kind of narrative as well. Now, the only thing that I've probably been talking about in the last episodes that I saw as a kind of like negative or slowdown kind of, thing on my checklist of like, are we bullish? Are we moving into the bull market? Comes around the 25th, comes on the 25th of November and goes through to December 15th. And that is Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. So I don't actually think that this is going to be a massive, full-scale market meltdown. I think there's going to be a lot of confusion around communication around Bitcoin. But I think, of course, we are expecting pullbacks. It's not up only from here. In fact, pullbacks within a bear market can be really fast, really aggressive, and really deep. And so just be aware of that. And it's also helpful to remember what is actually happening when you see these retracements. And basically, as the price goes up and everybody gets bullish and comes in, the leverage builds up in the market. And so that needs to be cleared out. So the market maker is only going to lend out a certain amount. And once that's getting up there, then they need to flush that leverage out of the market so that we can start again and people can start borrowing again and building more leverage in the market. So that's really what's happening, is that when we see these pullbacks, it's the market makers flushing out the leverage in the market so that we can then be on a stable move up and forward. And that's why in previous videos, when I've seen something just going up and up and up and up with no breathers, it makes me really uncomfortable because it creates a lot of instability in the market. And those instabilities are usually reclaimed. So price usually comes back to fill those. So we want to see that healthy price action of like some breathers, some retracements. And so, the first sort of sign of that I'm really seeing is this November 25th as we move into Mercury retrograde. And I think that is going to be sparked by confusion in the communication around Bitcoin. So Mercury rules communication, information, travel, technology, and commerce. So when Mercury goes retrograde, its usual functions can become disrupted or scrambled or just confused, really. So it can lead to misunderstandings, delays, and the need to reevaluate information and strategies. So Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign associated with optimism, expansion, higher learning, philosophy, and far-reaching goals. So it seeks truth, it seeks freedom and a broader perspective when pushing the boundaries of what is known and what is familiar. So the key themes really for the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is this reevaluation of big picture plans. So Sagittarius is known for its expansive vision and long-term aspirations, very uncomfortable in the in the details, in the I personally find it very tedious. Like, I'm much more in the big picture, the utopian vision, that kind of thing, whereas the details of actually getting it done is what I find very frustrating. And those are the things that I need to work on and need to develop, whereas the big thinking, the big picture thinking actually comes quite naturally to Sagittarius people. And so Mercury retrograde in this sign sort of prompts a period of reassessment of the broad plans, of goals, philosophies, and that could include as well financial strategies and also market outlooks. So as I said, I really think the main theme is going to be disruption in communication and misunderstanding, confusion. So expect some disruptions in the flow of information, possible misinterpretations, and even over-optimism that lacks substance and stability. So for market participants, this can lead to conflicting market signals and challenges in making data-driven decisions. So you really want to be focused on the data. And I think what's going to happen, which always happens at a bull run, is that all of a sudden there's a million influencers on YouTube and Twitter and whatever, just screaming at you, yelling at you, all these inflated expectations of all these different coins, and this new project's going to save the world and all of that kind of stuff. And this really causes confusion. So that those of you who've been in this for a while, you know the fundamentals of Bitcoin, you know why you're here. And it's really important that we stay focused on what is true and what is correct, instead of getting caught up in a lot of the hype and things like that. For anyone new here, just be prepared that that is going to come at you, and you're going to need to cultivate this ability to filter through the noise. That is incredibly important in Bitcoin, especially in a bull market. There is also the other sort of focal point or main theme, I think, of this Mercury retrograde as well, is a focus on truth and overconfidence. So Sagittarius tends to emphasize truth-seeking and bold ideas. However, during Mercury retrograde, there can be this tendency to make overconfident decisions without a solid basis. So that can obviously lead to errors in judgment or investments driven by exaggerated claims. So this is exactly what I'm talking about in terms of being very aware of who you're watching, who you're listening to, and really sort of be able to take a step back, especially if your emotions are getting heightened. And a lot of the creators on YouTube can really give you incredible information, but you've got to be able to draw out that information without getting your emotions caught up in the noise. And so I just want you to all be really prepared for that eventuality. We're not at peak FOMO yet, but it's coming. It's coming. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that during the Mercury retrograde for sure. So as always, there can be volatility through Mercury retrograde. It often brings, market instability and unexpected reversals. For Bitcoin, it can result in quite sudden price swings or market corrections. And as I said, all that's happening there is the leverage is being flushed out. What I would recommend as well, and I'm talking to myself when I say this, is I don't feel comfortable looking for shorts on Bitcoin in this market. It's very much in FU mode, and although we know that there is always retracements and there is always these, flush outs to clear out the leverage in the market, they're sometimes quite hard to catch and can reverse on you really, really quickly. So even if all of your signs on your technical analysis on your charts are saying to short, I would just take a step back, let it happen, let it flush out, and then look for a new long entry. That's what I would recommend, because sometimes it's just a little hard to time them and to catch them and to get out in time as well. So just be aware of that too. There may be some delays in technological and institutional development. So if there are like pending upgrades or partnerships or institutional adoption, involving Bitcoin, these initiatives may face some delays during this time or require some like further scrutiny. So miscommunications or misunderstandings can really like hinder that kind of progress, but it's okay. Mercury retrograde does eventually pass. And, again, it's one of those things people get quite freaked out about Mercury retrograde, but it's here for us. It's really here for us. And sometimes things need to be stirred up a little bit, and so they can come to the surface and we can address them. And that's really kind of like what Mercury retrograde tends to do. Also, Sagittarius influence may spark, like, we love the philosophical side of life. Like Sagittarians are drawn to philosophy and psychology and all of those kind of like healing modalities and things like that. We live for that. And so during this time, the narrative around Bitcoin may shift as well. And may spark some ideological debates about Bitcoin's future, its value proposition, its societal impact, its impact on humanity. Also, the conversation around fairness in our financial system, stability in our financial systems. So those kind of like more philosophical ideas around Bitcoin will probably come to the forefront during this time. So be aware of that and dial into that as well, because it's actually a really important part of Bitcoin. So investors may grapple with differing perspectives on this as well. Again, because there's that communication confusion, but it's really interesting to sort of filter through these ideas and, come to your own conclusion about them. So next we have another positive aspect on the 26th, and that is Jupiter sextile Bitcoin's natal sun. So Jupiter is part of, again, is that planet of expansion, abundance, optimism, growth, and, good fortune. And it just brings opportunities for success, prosperity, and higher wisdom, often acting as a beneficial force in any transit. And so then you have the sun's influence, and that represents like identity, vitality, core purpose, and central authority. So in financial astrology, it signifies the heart and the identity of an asset or entity. So in this case, Bitcoin's central purpose and global recognition. So the sextile, as I said previously, is a positive aspect that creates opportunities, harmony, and potential growth. And it requires initiative to fully activate its benefits, but it tends to bring helpful, constructive energy. So this transit indicates a period of positive growth and expansion for Bitcoin. Jupiter's like expansive energy really supports that optimism, broadening of horizons, and increased adoption or interest in Bitcoin. So this sextile really sort of suggests a favorable period for Bitcoin's reputation and market presence. So investors and institutions may feel much more confident, leading to increased buying pressure, bullish market sentiment, or heightened interest in Bitcoin as a store of value or investment. So also there's a potential for new developments. So with Jupiter's influence, again, it could coincide with significant developments, partnerships, initiatives that enhance Bitcoin's utility, scalability, or mainstream appeal. And so this may include like technological upgrades, increased integration into financial markets, government announcements around, holding as a reserve asset, for example, or positive regulatory views. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's going to be this push up into then this new moon energy, which is where we could probably see a bit of a breather. But the energy of this transit really favors that upward momentum in Bitcoin's price, and the optimistic influence of Jupiter then combined with the sun's core identity boosting energy, could really lead to price appreciation and periods of sustained gains. So expect potential increases in market volume, trading activity, and institutional interest. Jupiter's expansive energy may really attract new investors that are very excited about their ETF and want to get some before they go on holiday, before they get them and their fund manager go on holiday for Christmas. So we could see that little push into that there as well. So Bitcoin really may receive a lot more positive media coverage as well, public interest and just visibility during this transit. I think that this only ramps up over the next couple of months. And so positive narratives around Bitcoin's role in finance, its potential as digital gold, or its utility as decentralized asset, are really going to continue and be on the table. And I think one of the main conversations again is moving from that store of value, which is, becoming a fantastic store of value, or it already is, and moving into that next phase of evolution and becoming a unit of exchange. So I think that those conversations are on the table. So I think that we are going to have that little boost into the new moon, which is on the 30th. And before that, just a couple of days before that, we have Chiron Semisquare Bitcoin's natal moon. And so again, Chiron, wounded healer, represents areas where we may experience pain, wounds, and the potential for profound healing and growth. So in financial astrology, Chiron's transits often like a highlighting, as I said previously, these vulnerabilities or crises and the opportunity for transformation or deeper insight through addressing these past wounds. And like what that energy kind of represents is that, yes, the wounding takes you a few steps back, but the healing, the resilience, and the learning that comes from healing those wounds takes you on a trajectory way further than you ever could have if you didn't experience the wounding in the first place, if that makes sense. So it really is like a pull. It's almost like a slingshot, a pull backwards to be able to send you on a trajectory forwards. So the moon governs emotions as well, instincts and public sentiment. So in the financial context, the moon's position can reflect market sentiment, collective feelings, and an emotional response to financial events or assets. So for Bitcoin, the natal moon relates to its perceived value, the collective emotional attachment to it, and public reaction. So a semisquare is a minor but challenging aspect that introduces tension and friction. It's not as aggressive as a full square, but just sort of highlights this need for adjustment. So as I said, while it's not as intense as a square, it can still cause discomfort and compel changes or reactions. So this transit suggests a period where collective sentiment around Bitcoin may be impacted by emotional triggers or underlying wounds in the market. Some PTSD from last cycle might be happening. And this could manifest as market fears or anxieties or reactions rooted in the past, like past negative experiences. As I said, past market crashes or security issues, something like that. So this aspect does introduce some friction, creating a sense of tension or discomfort in the market. And it could lead to some, like a correction or something like that, some uncertainty, or sudden emotional emotionally driven market moves that like reflect collective doubts or unresolved issues. So despite its challenging nature, Chiron also offers this chance for healing and transformation. It never just leaves the wound. So this period may highlight some weaknesses or vulnerabilities in how Bitcoin is perceived, prompting efforts to address these issues. So like improving custody security, or increasing transparency, increasing education around self-custody, or strengthening community resilience. So yeah, we may see some fluctuations. As I said, we're heading into that new moon in Sagittarius. And so I expect to see a bit of a slowdown. We're all waiting for a leverage flush out. So don't be afraid of it. Expect it. Don't let it catch you by surprise. There are some aspects that are sort of indicating that, but I don't think it's going to be like face melting market meltdowns either. I think it's pretty positive, and I think we're in a really, really positive place with Bitcoin, and it's super exciting to see how it's moving, what's happening. And for those of us that have ridden out this horrific bear market, well, not horrific, but really boring bear market, and stuck with it, and, you know, stuck to our intuitive leanings around Bitcoin and where it's going, is you're starting to see that, you know, come into fruition, which is really exciting. So as I said at the beginning, just take a moment to embody that, enjoy that, and, you know, add those feelings to your core memories, store them in your body so that you can return to them in times that you need to recall them. And that's just a really positive way. Also, I wanted to just address the question that I've been receiving the most over the last week or so, and that is it too late to buy Bitcoin? The answer to that is really, what do you want it for? What are you buying it for? We are in price discovery, so it's much more difficult to measure your risk to reward on something like that. But I do believe that we are still early. This is obviously not financial advice, but I expect expansion. But if I was someone that had no Bitcoin right now, you might want to begin to DCA in. But I would keep a perspective that you're building a position maybe for the next market. Now, do I expect it to crash tomorrow and never come back and we go into the next bear market? I don't. The signs are not there for that. The signs are for expansion, but you always need to be prepared for that. So having some expectations, having a longer term perspective, a longer time horizon, and just being able to DCA into Bitcoin, knowing that it also could pull back and come down, and being prepared to add more, you know, is the healthiest way to do that. Yeah, that's kind of what I would sort of suggest in that respect. Also, I would be, again, I'm a big proponent of self-custodying Bitcoin. Don't leave it sitting on exchange. Don't leave your crypto sitting on exchanges. Don't leave your Bitcoin sitting on exchanges. Definitely move that to self-custody. And I also, when you're looking at sort of taking profits and towards the end of the cycle, with Bitcoin particularly, not other cryptocurrencies, you can get out of them, but, you know, I recommend taking profits on those as you go and recovering your initial investment on those as soon as possible as well. But with Bitcoin, I would be reluctant to actually sell the physical Bitcoin, and I would look for other strategies to profit from the downside. We will talk about this in more detail when we're there. We're only at the beginning of the bull run, but I know that people are sort of thinking about that now. And that's sort of what I would say to that, is already have that mindset that not necessarily selling your actual Bitcoin, but sort of looking for other ways that you can profit from the downside in a different way, like taking out derivative positions, short positions, or buying some put options or something like that. And you can start planning that. Because, look, I'll be honest with you, I am in a very positive headspace. I'm looking forward to the expansion. I'm looking forward to the bull run. But also, now that we shifted into that next phase, I'm making plans for the following phase. So I'm looking at you know, strategies for getting out of projects, especially altcoins. As I said, we're not there yet. I'm not executing those strategies, but I'm planning for that exit. And I would suggest that everybody sort of has that kind of plan in place as well. So that's about it from me for this week. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see Bitcoin doing what Bitcoin's doing. Orange coin outshining orange man. Love to see it. And I will catch you for the Sagittarius new moon. See you next time. Peace, love, and Bitcoin.